Do animals really understand what we're thinking and feeling? And vice versa? Annie Bourke says yes. And this episode, whether you're a skeptic or a seasoned intuitive, is an opportunity to open your mind and try on some different ways of relating to our furry friends.
And she told me what her name would be on the animal rescue site. And I've never had an animal doing that before, and describe what she was going to look like. The family found her.
Welcome to the Frequency Files. Thanks for joining us as we explore the vibrations, forms, and creations and mechanisms behind them that inform the nature of existence. Annie, it's so awesome to have you here today, and you've got such a rich background in not only connecting with pets, but all kinds of animals and humans as well, and helping us to see the broader spectrum of the interconnectivity of life and consciousness and frequency. Can you share with us how that came to be?
Yes, it's an interesting story. So I call myself now the animal human relationship enricher. And that's what I love doing, is connecting humans to their animals so that they can understand each other on a deeper level and have a much more profound and meaningful relationship. So, for as long as I can remember, I thought that my cats could understand me, and I wished I could understand what they were saying back to me. And I actually used to say, I wish I could speak cat. And I had a little ginger girl cat, and they're quite rare. Most ginger cats are boys, so she was a very special little girl. And sadly, she passed away after a short illness. And it just made me feel as though I'd missed the opportunity to get to know her on a deeper level because I didn't know how to talk with her. So she's the one who inspired me on this path of becoming an animal communicator. And I found a course online, and there was an image of a cat on the home page who looked exactly like her. And I thought, this is not a coincidence. This is a sign. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. So I had two cats living with me at the time. So they became my very patient teachers because I had no idea what I was really doing. And they taught me so much. And then as part of that, I learnt how to connect with animals in spirit. So I've spoken to that girl, Ginger Cat in Spirit, and said, how it made me feel that I hadn't got to know her better. She holds no grudges at all. She knew it was her purpose to get me to do what I'm doing because she knows that's my purpose. And she's now seen me in meditations and dreams, and I've been able to pick her up and hold her, and I can feel her breathing and I can hear her vocalizing. And it's just so beautiful that we can maintain those connections. And that's another thing they've taught me, that even though their physical body no longer exists, their soul does. And so we can always connect with them. So it doesn't matter how many years ago someone's animal passed away, their soul will still exist and we can have a conversation. And now part of my work has evolved from that because one of my cats taught me about soul reincarnation. And I didn't realize it happened. I'd always been fascinated that the Egyptians knew about reincarnation. But my little cat, she wasn't very old. She didn't have any health issues. And she just suddenly passed away one morning. And it was a huge shock because I just wasn't expecting it. But at least I knew I was in the position that I'd be able to ask her what happened when she was ready to talk to me. And she told me to stop being so sentimental and that she was coming back. And I thought, what? Because I had no point of reference, but because she'd been so accurate with everything she'd been teaching me, I just had to believe her. And she came back. And now I've been able to help so many people move through the grief process of saying goodbye to a beloved animal because I know that if it's their destiny to come back, they will. And they can tell me who they're going to be, what they're going to look like, what gender, what colour, sometimes even a specific rescue agency where to find them. And then it's just wonderful, seeing the animals in their new bodies, reuniting with their families again. And so a lot of work I do is to give parents clarity about what's going on with their animals, but also peace of mind, particularly with animals who have passed over. So that's a very long way of answering your question, but it's just evolved more and more as I've learnt more from the animals and, what they do with health issues, behavior changes, all sorts of things that we can find out from them.
Mm. And as I understand, you work with people all over the world.
I
Yeah.
just need a photo of their animal, like you can see of my boy behind me. I just need to see the animal on their own, so no other animals or humans in the photo. So I'm just focusing on their energy, so I can see their face with their eyes open. So yes, I've had a lot of clients from overseas, and plus talking to animals in spirit, and it's a mobile gift because I can be somewhere different and still connect with animals anywhere. I just need that photo and their name. I have to ask the animals consent for a conversation because it's a free will choice for them. I can't force them to have a conversation. So they're just so excited to have the opportunity to connect with their humans and answer their questions. And it's usually the first time they've spoken to a human telepathically, and it gives them the opportunity to pass on their messages for their humans. And some of that is messages of love and gratitude for looking after them, but some of it is them passing on their wisdom for us. So they can give us guidance about a lot of things, but particularly our spiritual path. And so, if part of their purpose was to be here to help guide us and support us, and they know that we've got issues like with stress or something else, they can pass on constructive advice. They're not judgmental or critical, it's constructive advice to help us. I never know what they're going to tell me, but it's just incredible what they know about us and how they can help us.
Wow. And as I understand, you also work with people who have possibly rescue animals who have maybe had a really different life before they come to their forever home. What's that
Yes,
been like?
that's a big part of my work as well. I'm in awe that an animal who may have been traumatized from a previous experience is willing to trust a human again to look after them and love them and provide the security that they didn't experience first time around. And it is very tricky adopting a rescue animal. Like, it's wonderful that we can open up our hearts and our homes to look after them, but we don't know what's happened to them. And sometimes the rescue agencies don't have a good history of what's happened to them. And so we don't know why they're exhibiting certain behaviours. Often they'll get triggered by something. Often it's male voices, loud male voices, or heavy footsteps. It might be sudden movement of something, and they'll just jump or respond or go and hide. They might just sit there and tremor. There's all sorts of things that they can do. But that's something that I can ask is what they're still dealing with now. Often they don't want to talk about exactly what happened because it's too traumatic and they've come away on their healing journey and they don't want to go backwards. And I respect their boundaries. But if they can tell me what they're still dealing with on an emotional or psychological level, then it means that their humans can be more patient and sensitive, understanding what they're dealing with. And I have discovered now that there are healing modalities available for animals that can help release these emotions that are still plaguing them. Now, some of these emotions, and humans can experience this as well, maybe from past lives, and they've continued in this lifetime. Some of it may be from what they've experienced. And for animals that have reincarnated into a rescue animal body, although they didn't actually experience what that soul in the rescue animal did, there's cellular memory in the body, and that can affect your animal's soul when they move into that body. So I'm just so grateful that these options are available to help the animals. And I spoke with a horse who had a number of emotional issues, and some of them went back to when he was quite young. And often animals do experience trauma if they're abandoned or if their mum passes away, or if an animal family member leaves them unexpectedly. So a horse I spoke with had a couple of sessions of the modality called emotion code, and he told me afterwards that he wasn't aware of what burden he was carrying until those emotions were released. And he can now lead a more fulfilled life, and he's not trapped in that turmoil of all those different emotions. A lot of rescue animals I've spoken with are dealing with low self esteem, low self worth, fear, despair, terror. There's a whole list of things. And, to talk to an animal and have them tell me that they don't think they're worthy of love is just devastating. But that's just the reality of what they've experienced to date. And so it's really important to tell our animals, because they understand everything verbally that we say, that we do love them and that they are safe and we're not going to abandon them. I've spoken to a cat who went through about 8 different foster homes and agencies before she ended up with her permanent home. And then her mum went away for a couple of weeks not long after. The poor cat was so upset because she didn't know that she was going to see her mum again. And she thought, who's going to look after me? Where am I going to go now? The stress was just palpable when I was talking to her. So it's a key message for everyone listening to this episode that your animals do understand everything that you say verbally, and they love being told that you love them. They know that you do, but hearing you use those high frequency words, going back to your emphasis on frequency, they totally understand the frequency of words. And so love and gratitude are very high frequency words, and our animals love it when we say that, and that can really help them.
What kind of shifts have you noticed when you've had these conversations and or trained pet parents or people who work in institutions with animals like zoos or rescue agencies to engage with pets at a deeper level? What kind of shifts have you noticed?
Oh, look, it totally transforms the relationship. I've had people who have listened to my podcasts or they've come to one of my free masterclasses and they've heard me saying, after this finishes, please go and look at your animal and tell them that you love them. And they say, wow, one conversation changes the relationship. They can become more attentive, show more affection. I had one mum who really wanted her cat to show her more affection. He wasn't a lap cat and she really wanted to have a smoochy boy. We had a conversation and she messaged me the next day and she said, you won't believe it, he slept snuggled in my arms all night. She was just so excited, but he understood then that mum wanted to see more affection from him, and he was able to show that and do that. So it's just phenomenal how much it changes. I've had animals who have been ill, and we've been able to send healing frequency to them. And I also use crystals because of the frequency of crystals to support healing and well-being. And that's transformed the health trajectories of animals as well. And it's the frequencies that do it. Like, again, I'm just amazed with crystals that they all vibrate at different frequencies. Again, our animals are sensitive to those frequencies. I make up big grids to support animals and humans, and also the people doing my animal communication mentorship program. My cats go and lie next to the grids or on them to help amplify the energy and activate them. And some of our animals are here to help us with the work that they're doing, and they are healers. And they get in there with their paws and they just very gently move the crystals to change the alignment and to change the energy that the grid's producing. One of the grids I made for a cat, they put one of their toy mice in. I didn't tell them it was for a cat. They just knew. They put this little toy mouse in. It was so cute. I took a photo for the mum. But they're just so aware of what's happening with us. And I had a mum tell me, my cat knows me better than I do. Like that, they're just so tuned into us. They can read our energy. They know when we're starting to get ill because our energetic frequency level drops. And so, again, they'll start being more attentive and affectionate. And they can read our moods. I call them walking mood barometers because they know if we're sad, they can go and do something really goofy and make us laugh because they know that will change our mood. So they're just so intelligent and so intuitive. It just is amazing finding out how much they can help us and what they're doing behind the scenes to help us as well.
Mm, mm.
And yes, sorry, answering your question about animal professionals. Yes, I have worked with people who work with animals, like, people at pet kennels or pet sitting, because again, if they can communicate with the animals, that can really help them so they can, if the animal is boarding with them and they're stressed because they haven't got their parents there, the person can tell them, look, mum and dad are away for 5 sleeps. You're staying with me. I'll be looking after you. They can understand the concept of time, so they can count down the 5 sleeps till mum and dad are back again. And that really helps. And it's just, you can find out why has their behavior changed. So whether they're in a zoo or whether it's a domestic animal, we can ask. And like, I'm not an animal behaviorist, but I can ask, why are you doing this? And what do your parents need to do so that your behavior can change? And they've again taught me that when they change behavior, they're not being deliberately naughty. They're trying to tell us something. Until we can communicate telepathically with them, they have to rely on eye language or body language or different vocalizations or a change in behavior, because they know we will notice a change in behavior to let us know that they're trying to tell us something, and then we can find out what's happening.
Mm. Mm.
And taking it one step further, I spoke with a cat who was being very vocal, and mum knew he was trying to tell her something, but she didn't know what. He was actually a soul that she'd known in this life, a human soul who'd come back to be with her. And so he was able to tell me that, and then she understood. That totally changed their relationship. And to me, it's just fascinating having a conversation with our animals to find out whose soul is in them, because it may be a soul that you've known as an animal or a human in a past life, or it may be one of your childhood pets who's reincarnated and come back to you. It can be a relation from this lifetime who's passed over and has come back to still be with you. So it's just so intriguing. And I just had a mentorship client on Monday, and the two animals that she's been working with during the program, I got her to ask them, have they had past lives with her? I didn't want to know the details, but I just wanted to find out. Both of them have. And so she can now ask them more about the past lives, and animals can recall their past lives. We can't unless we have a past life regression or go somewhere that was significant and have little flashbacks. But they can tell me all sorts of details about the past lives. So and I check it all, go on to Google and check that the year that they're telling me is accurate for where they were living and what they say their humans were doing. It's all 100% accurate. They just know.
Wow. Fascinating. I've got so many, so many questions working out where to start.
Yep.
I'm really curious because a lot of people might be like, oh yeah, okay, I don't have a pet. That sounds cool, but this whole idea of working in institutions or organizations where there are a lot of animals, that's a whole other level. And that those organizations seek you out because they maybe haven't yet cultivated those skills to engage with animals at that deeper level, and that they're hungry for that. And that's not something maybe that's contemporarily in mainstream context talked about. What are some of the shifts you've noticed in working with these, like you mentioned, these kennels, and maybe zoos? What do you notice there, and how does that shift perceptions in maybe contexts where people weren't previously aware or open?
Yeah, brilliant question. I would love to go and do that and, consult, particularly in zoos or sanctuaries. I have gone and visited a horse sanctuary and worked with some of the traumatized horses. They're all rescue horses. So tuned in to find out what they needed and then did healing work, and they were open to doing that. uh, the lady who did my mentorship program, who pet sits, it means that she can explain more to the humans when they come back as well about what the animals have told her. And for people who have had no exposure to animal communication, it can sound really weird. A lot of people are skeptical. How can an animal talk? They understand yes, no, and walk, and that's it. But like the words that they come out with when we're doing the mentorship program are phenomenal. One of the cats we've been working with, her words the other day with some of the exercises were Triceratops, Transylvania, rhinoceros, violet, fridge. And like we just ask them to, as part of the exercises, to send words as verbal messages or visual images, starting with different letters. And that just explains so much. They're showing what they know, they can showcase their vocabularies, but some of them even use words that go back to hundreds of years ago. And they obviously lived then, and they're familiar with words that were used commonly then that we don't use every day now. And so when they say a word I've never heard of, I look it up and it's in the dictionary. It's just phenomenal. So, yes, I would love to go and help explain what's happening, but I have gone to different zoos, and if animals have connected in and told me messages, I do pass them on to the zookeepers. And fortunately, they've been very open to getting the messages and doing something about it. So, one of the animals I spoke to was in an enclosure that was too cold, and it only takes a couple of seconds to turn up a thermostat and make their environment more comfortable. A cheetah was telling me about aches and pains that they had, and when I told the keepers, they thought they knew who that was, and so they were going to do something to help that. So
Mm.
animals also know if their diet is deficient in something, and I've spoken with a horse, and she told me that she needed antioxidants. So I told a mum that, and a mum just laughed. She had been having antioxidants and they'd run out 3 weeks ago and she hadn't gone and got more. And the horse could tell the difference in the diet. So some of them tell me it's vitamins or minerals. Some of them have said they need collagen, all sorts of different things. So again, if there's an animal in a sanctuary, whether it's a rescue sanctuary or a zoo, it doesn't matter. Once you can communicate telepathically, you can talk to any animal, whether they're domestic or wild. They all understand because it's the language that they use. And as long as they're happy to have the conversation, they can tell you things and they just trust you like you're a complete stranger, but they just trust that you're going to pass their messages on and get them the help that they need. So, yes, I think it would be phenomenal to have people at zoos and sanctuaries and anywhere that's got animals trained in telepathy, because it's just going to help the animals' journey so much more, understanding what they're dealing with and getting them help. Like it will be lovely for rescue animals who have been traumatized to have some emotional support sessions before they go to their new home, so that they've shifted a lot of what they've been dealing with and they're ready to start a new life. So a huge amount of scope to do that work.
Mm, 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 mm. Yeah, and let's hope that that's coming, and more as frequencies shift on the planet and people expand their scope of possibility, that will be included. Yeah, yeah. How do you, and we just touched on this, but where would you love to see this work going and evolving to in the years to come?
I think what you've raised is a good part of that I would love animals to have, if they're in care somewhere, that they've got keepers who can communicate with them so they're getting a better quality of life. I'd also love animal parents who have domestic animals to learn how to talk with them, and it just changes their relationship. But it's that bond that you develop. So even if you've got a reincarnated animal with you and you can feel that soul connection that you've had before, you can extend that by having these conversations with them. And like the two animals that I was talking with my mentorship client on Monday, that was the last session of our program. And so I asked for their feedback. And they're just looking forward now to having really profound conversations with mum. There's so much that they're here to tell her. One said that they were there to help her on her ascension path. And that's what they do. And so when we can talk to them, they can give us, paragraphs of conversations. Like I said, one of my cats dictated the last chapter of my recent book, and he was just talking to me, and I'm just saying out loud what it was, talking into my phone, and I've got it, and it's in the book, and it's word for word what he said. And that's just amazing. So it will blow some people's minds knowing that our animals are so literate and that they've got extensive vocabularies and that they're so wise and that they're with us for a purpose. So some of them are here to help teach us. And so once we can talk with them, then they can teach us. Some of them are here as healers. So particularly for people who do energetic healing work, they can help with their work as well. And some are here as guardians and they're here to protect us. So all of these roles come out. And so part of my vision is, on a global level, making a difference so that people understand that, yes, animals understand what you say. There's no coincidence that your animal's with you and that they have souls. Unfortunately, at the moment, not every country in the world has legislated that animals are sentient beings, which alters how much welfare laws can protect them. So one of the things I'd love to see is that that's united around the world. And I know there's a lot of work going on in different countries, and with some international bodies as well to help bring that into fruition, but that's a big part of it. Personally, I want to open an animal sanctuary for rescue animals and have people come to stay like on little mini retreats and learn how to communicate with them and also learn energetic healing, which means that the animals are going to benefit from that, but so are the humans. So
Beautiful.
lots of things to think about to change my vision. But I just want animals to be that people respect them, that they're a soul that's come to earth in an animal body. We're a soul that's come to earth in a human body. We're both souls. We've got missions, we've got lessons to learn. We may have had human or animal lifetimes in the past. So, to me, they're like a energetic equal, and some of them are, hold so much more wisdom than we do because of the number of lifetimes they've lived. And it's just an opportunity to, learn from them, and it changes our lives. Like some of the concepts that my animals have taught me, I had no idea. They teach me and they just teach me like little chunks because I have to integrate it and understand it, and then I can write about it in my posts or in my books. And then I can help people when I understand the principles. So, particularly for me, I'm fascinated with past lives, like my own personal past lives, but also animal past lives. And so they can recall where they've been and who they've been with. And what they've taught me is that when they pass over, there's a part of the soul that stays on the other side, and they refer to that as the anchor. And
Mhm.
so, however many fragments of the soul are having simultaneous lifetimes, whether they're in the past or currently now or in the future, because they understand that time isn't linear,
Yep.
all of those parts of the soul can communicate back to the anchor. And I think that's how they know about all these past lives and can give us the specific details. And so I understand that they keep incarnating until they've completed all the lessons they need to learn. And then they would go back and merge with that anchor. And then they could still come and visit Earth if they want to, but they don't actually have to reincarnate because they've completed what they needed to do.
because I've heard so many different perspectives about soul evolution in frameworks that sort of place animals on a lower rung.
I know.
I
And that's not what
a
they've taught
linear rung,
me.
and I
Yep.
love that you're changing that up in just sharing your anecdotal evidence of what you've discovered in your interactions.
Look, it's just amazing. Like one of my first animal communication teachers showed me in little video snippets, because they've got the thought transference technology to send us videos as well as verbal messages and pictures, that we actually worked in ancient Egypt. And he was a cat and I was a priestess. And he showed me us working together and told me that we've had multiple lifetimes together. So our souls have been connected over thousands of years, and he's had some human lifetimes with me and he's had animal lifetimes with me. And my cat behind me was apparently a human in his last lifetime, and he particularly wanted to come back as an animal this time because he can guide me what to write and help activate a whole lot of people around the world and make a more profound difference than he could with the restrictions he had as a human trying to influence the world. So, as I understand it, they have a choice about who they come back as. And I don't experience anything from my conversations that they have to go through iterations of animals till they get to a certain point of evolvement before they become a human. That's not my lived experience with what the animals have told me.
Mm. That's really, really interesting. I wanted to share with you was I've never really I have subtle skills and have done energy healing for a number of years, but I never thought that I had the skills to talk to animals. And I have a friend who teaches people how to communicate specifically with dogs. But for her, it came online when a snake started talking to her underneath a log. And it said, don't tell your friend that you're hiking with is going to freak out. So don't say anything. And they had this
I
conversation.
actually know the person you're talking about because I
Yeah. Okay.
recognise that story. Oh, I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Someone's told me a very similar story about when their animal communication switched on, and it was with a snake. And I find snakes fascinating to talk with because they don't actually have ears. So they can't hear us audibly, but they can hear us telepathically because that's a silent language and you hear it in your head. It's not audible in your ears. But even though they can't hear audibly, they're aware of conversations that are happening around them. It's just fascinating because they can tell me what they've heard, and I don't know how they've heard it. So it's really interesting talking to them. And, part of the joy of having conversations with animals is that their personalities come through. And I've had one snake telling me that he was doing a happy dance. And the next thing I've got this vision of this snake gyrating around doing a happy dance. And then something else in the conversation, he said, "Oh, I'm all ears." And like he knew that that was funny because he didn't have ears, but he said it. Like they just say the most funny things. And I had a horse whose mum wanted to know whether she'd like to try a bridle that meant that she would have no metal in her mouth. The horse started singing Alleluia. Now, I'd never had an animal sing an answer to me before, and Alleluia was just such an appropriate song to sing. She was obviously excited about not having metal, and she had a really good voice. So I just wish I could record what I
Yeah.
hear in my head so that people know what their animals sound like. Because they've all got different voices, just like humans. And yes, you can tell when they're smiling and they tell me funny stories and make me laugh. And as I said, you just don't know what they're going to tell you. And it's just very funny.
Mm. And there's so many, as you touched upon earlier, with the cats putting the toy mouse on the
The
little
grid.
grids. There's so many healing roles that animals play, either formally or informally. I mean, now we have equine therapy, and that's becoming a lot more of a recognized modality. And it's phenomenal. if anyone hasn't sort of touched on that, it's really interesting to look at the healing power that all animals, but also, yeah, those horses really hold. It's
I
very,
think the horses are exceptional because they have a huge electromagnetic field generating from their hearts. And so you don't have to stand right next to them. They can put a bed somewhere and the horses just can come around and be near you and not overwhelming you if you're not comfortable around big animals. But the energetic frequencies that they're generating that come to you will affect you profoundly. So, yeah, people use dogs for therapy animals. There's all sorts of things, but animals can assist us on a number of levels, and this has all been proven with scientific research. They can help drop our blood pressure, reduce the risk of strokes and heart attacks. They can increase the production of our happy hormones and decrease the release of cortisol, so that we're less stressed. If we're on our own, it gives us a purpose for being. Like we've got to get up and feed them. If it's a dog, we've got to go and take them for a walk, which helps us to socialize. So, on a physical level, on a mental level, emotional level, there's so many things that they do to support us. And people describe their animals as their soul dog or their heart dog, and they can feel a bond with them. And these are animals that we've had lifetimes with before. When I have a conversation with them, we work out that yes, they have known each other a number of times. And that's why you feel it so strongly. And it's
mm,
just amazing that they can help us experience that unconditional love. And that's a big part of their purpose too, as well as their many other roles, is to help us to evolve our hearts, and experiencing that unconditional love. And for people who live on their own, their animal is the only way they get to experience love. And that's really important. And I know we were discussing before we started the recording about what happens with people that don't have an animal and how do they get that experience. But they could go and visit animals in zoos or volunteer at a shelter somewhere or go and visit friends with animals and spend some time with them. So it's being in that frequency range of the animal's energetic aura that you get that exposure to them, and that can help. But yes, there are people that sadly have never had an animal for a variety of reasons, and it means that they haven't experienced that joy and love that the animal can help you to experience. And so there's a lovely quote that until you've spent time with an animal, a part of your soul remains unawakened.
mm,
And I think that's very profound as well. Animals do change us. And, most people think that, it's a dumb animal, and it's not. They're just so intelligent and so intuitive. And, a big part of their role is to help us and be of service for us.
mm, mm, mm. Yeah, absolutely. And for people who haven't had animals or maybe have lived or grown up in places that are quite removed from nature, there can be a real disconnect, not only with the animal kingdom, but with the plant kingdom. And in understanding that we're not separate from nature, we are nature, and that a tree and a bird and a cat are all equally sentient instead of looking at a hierarchical level.
Yep.
Mm,
Yep. And that's another reason I love the frequencies with healing, because plants used as essential oils, you've got their vibrational frequency to help you. It's a natural remedy. It's from the earth, like the crystals. They all vibrate at a different frequency. So, yes, we may not think we're connected, but even just spending time putting your hands on a tree and you can feel that there's something there, there's something alive and something moving. Some people get regenerated by or rejuvenated by connecting with the trees. I like going to zoos and spending time with the animals and talking with them, and that really, enhances my energy as well. But it's just being aware that we can do that, going into nature, whether it's walking along a beach or you're in a mountain track somewhere, it doesn't really matter. And there'll be tons of animals around you watching you that you will be totally unaware of. But it is this connectedness, and it's all about frequency. the point that you just brought up before we started recording about the connectedness of everything is something that my cat Tierney, who you can see on the book cover behind me, wanted me to emphasize in my most recent book, which is called Crossing the Bridge to Animal Consciousness, Animal Soulology. A key learning that animals want you to recognize is that your connection with Source or God, nature, and each other, everything living consists of energy and vibrational frequency, and everything living is connected. There is a living consciousness of interconnectedness, even though you don't understand that you can consciously connect. So many people don't understand that you can communicate with animals and have profound conversations that change your lives. So that's the kind of wisdom we can get from communicating with animals. Some of the animals I've spoken with are extremely evolved beings, so they've had multiple lifetimes, over centuries. Some of them have had human lifetimes as well as animal lifetimes. And some of them are here to share their wisdom with us because they can actually fast track our consciousness expansion. And so they can really help us on our spiritual journey. It's just phenomenal being able to have a two-way conversation with an animal, just like we do with each other, like we're doing now. And that was dictated word for word what he told me. And it's all about frequency, and just understanding that you're not isolated on your own and that you have got all these resources around you to help you heal and to help you evolve as a soul.
Mm. How do you've mentioned some of the ways that are beautiful. Are there any other ways you'd love to share with how you cultivate a harmonious frequency for yourself?
Look, I love meditation, and my cats come in and join me because they listen and understand what's happening. They can feel the frequencies as well. Lots of crystals. I've got crystals all over my house, including in my bed and under my bed. So I love working with the crystals. Uh, Relaxation. It's just taking time out for you and understanding that you have to invest in you so that you've got the energy to be able to invest in other people and in the animals. Because as you know, energetic work is it can be quite draining. And so you need to look after your energetic boundaries to protect you. But that's important because you're offering something important to the world, and you need to keep yourself in an appropriate state so that you can keep doing that work. Just recently, I went to a floating sound immersion. And it was so funny because I'd seen images of these people in the US suspended in the air in these little hammocks, having a sound bath being played underneath them. So it's singing bowls, acoustic guitar, didgeridoo here in Australia, drums, lots of different instruments. But it's quite a different experience being up in the air because the musicians come and play the instruments around you. So you're absorbing that from all different angles around your body rather than lying flat on the ground and listening to the same instruments. It's very different. And that's just so relaxing, but also so healing because the frequencies just go to where they need to go, like any of these different modalities. And yeah, that really helped.
Is there any ponderings or teachings that you are sitting with at the moment and digesting, whether that's epiphanies of your own or insights from animals or books or other modalities?
Yeah, it's interesting that my cats with me seem to just introduce me to a concept and then give me time to digest it and understand it, and then they move on to the next thing. So for ages, because I've been communicating now for about 14 years, they haven't told me how they send pictures or video snippets into my head. They just appear. And so I know it's some kind of thought transference technology. I don't understand how it works. Obviously, I don't need to know at the moment how it works, or they would tell me, but I just don't know. So that's an unanswered thing. The other question I ponder is when I have a conversation with an animal in spirit and they know it's their destiny to reincarnate, how they know in advance that they're coming back in 5 months' time into an animal that will then be 2 months old. So that animal that they're coming back into hasn't even been conceived yet, hasn't been born, but they know in advance, sometimes significant advance, about the animal body that they're going into. So I've actually asked my cat behind me how they know, and he said they see their soul blueprint. And so it's like they're reading their Akashic records and know what's going to happen. Because I just, that blows my mind that that body is not even in physical reality yet, but they know that's the body that their soul is going to move into to reunite with their families again.
Mm.
So I just have to trust it because it's happened so many times now that they'll tell me who they're going to be, what they're going to be, and their humans find them. And some of the stories are phenomenal. Like I've got 3 clients in the US who have had to travel hours to where their animal is, and they just know beyond a doubt it's them with the reactions they get and the similar behaviors that they see. Even if they've changed gender, they've changed breed, it's just amazing. And sometimes they change species. So normally a cat will come back as a cat and a dog will come back as a dog. But I had a cat client who was determined to come back as a dog, and she did. So they obviously have some choice about who they come back as. And I've just had a dog client to come back as a cat. I've spoken with a hamster who's coming back as a cat, and I've spoken to someone whose dog came back as a cow.
Mm.
So it's just incredible, the choices that they have and the information that they give me so that we can find them and get them home. I recently had a cat reincarnated in the US who actually told me which state in the US she would be in a rescue agency. It wasn't her home state. And she told me what her name would be on the animal rescue site. And I've never had an animal doing that before, and describe what she was going to look like. The family found her. The day before they picked her up, the rescue agency took her in for a vet check and discovered she was a boy. Now, she hadn't said she was a boy because she knew she was being advertised as a girl. And if she'd said to me, to tell her parents that she was a boy with all these details, they wouldn't have found her. So they just know. And like I've had some of them saying that they're going to be a specific breed so that their humans find them. They find them. They're not actually that breed at all. I had one reincarnating Saint Bernard dog, and he told us he was going to be a Saint Bernard puppy at a rescue agency about 3 months old. They found him. He's absolutely gorgeous. And Mum was really curious about his background, so she got a DNA test done on him, and he has 0% Saint Bernard genes. But again, he looks like a Saint Bernard, and he knew that if he told his mum that, she'd find him because he was listed as a Saint Bernard rescue puppy, and he wasn't a Saint Bernard. So it's phenomenal the way the universe works. Welcome,
Wow.
welcome to my reality where weird is normal.
Yeah, yeah. I love it. I love it. Annie, are there any parting thoughts you'd like to share before we wrap up today?
Look, I think it's understanding that your animal understands everything that you say. They may not
Mm.
do everything that you ask them to do because they have free will, but they certainly listen to what you say. Talking to them verbally all the time, they love it. And they love being told that you love them. And that will just be the first step in changing your relationship with them. And then it's just learning to observe them and seeing what you can pick up. Like I know my cat behind me started making funny noises and I didn't know what was going on. He made noises I'd never heard before. He was reacting to the Schumann resonance shifts. And I hadn't heard of the Schumann resonance, but it's the frequency that the earth vibrates at. And it's been rising and spiking. And a couple of years ago, it's under 10 normally, and it was spiking to over 40. he was sensitive enough to feel that, and it was agitating him. And it's interesting because I did a post about that, and a whole lot of people told me that their animals were agitated. So they can pick up on energetic things, solar storms, energetic shifts. They can be very sensitive. So there's a lot of things we can do using natural remedies to help our animals as well. And if you're interested in learning how to talk telepathically with them, it's something that we can do automatically as children, and somehow we switch it off as we grow up, but it's something that we can reactivate again. And that's what I help people with in my mentorship program. And then you can talk with your own animals, living or in spirit, and other animals as well. And that really has totally changed my life. I've given up my government job, and this is what I want to do to help as many animals and humans as possible, because I know personally what a difference it's made to my life being able to talk with my animals.
Amazing, amazing. So, Annie, how's the best way for people to get in contact with you if they'd like to dive into this work further?
Okay, easiest way is to email me, and my email is chintuitive@bigpond.com. You can also message me through my website, which is www.cosmicheartintuitive.com.au. You can send me messages through there. I've published 3 books, which you can purchase directly from me. I offer free masterclasses online every month for animal parents and animal professionals about all sorts of different topics. I've got free guides that you can download from my website. And then I have a number of different animal conversation options if you'd like to have me ask your animal questions, or the mentorship program. So lots of ways to find out more about your animals.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for your time, Annie. It's been great to connect.
Oh, it's been lovely chatting with you. I really enjoyed it.